Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this new session of Archive Online Academy, the training program of the Digital Center Archive of Fondazione Giorgio Cini, dedicated to exploring the evolving relationship between archives, digital technologies, and artistic research. Through a series of lectures, courses, and workshops, we invite participants and speakers from different backgrounds to share new ways of engaging with cultural heritage in different ways in the digital age. Today, we are very pleased to welcome Hiroaki Yamane, a digital artist and architectural design, and one of the winners of the first edition of the Digital Artist in Residence program in 2024. Hiroaki graduated from the Architectural Association in 2024 and previously worked as a creative technologist in the United States. His practice lies in the intersection of entropy, computation, and art, and also the architecture of memory. During his residency at Fondazione Giorgio Cini's Digital Center Archive on the island of San Giorgio Maggiore, he collaborated with the team and study our digital archives, and then also collaborated with Sara Francesca Tirelli and Alessandro Vangi on the video installation for the exhibition Casanova and Europe, which opened last week and will run until March here on San Giorgio Maggiore Island in Venice. In today's lecture, titled Compositional Interfaces, Hiroaki will propose new frameworks that transform digital abundance into creative potential, treating archives not as static repositories, but as dynamic materials for artistic expression. For comments or questions, please use the chat. They will be read at the end of Hiroaki's presentation. We would like to thank him again to be here with us today. And now I'm very pleased to leave him the floor.
Slides.
Yeah, everything is perfect.
Good. So, yeah, I'm gonna start my presentation. And then the title of this talk is the compositional interface. And then this title itself is a little bit confusing. And when I was also trying to understand what I'm trying to say, it's always getting a little bit too confusing. So this is how I think. Sometimes it's really, really complex, but I'm trying to make it like understandable for myself too. Maybe before going to that slides, maybe I'm gonna ask, explain a little bit about where I'm from and what my background is a little bit. I'm from Kyoto, like this really snowy town of Kyoto. It's north of Kyoto, it's like far, far away. And then I studied a little bit in Tokyo. I studied business and management, nothing to do with what I do now. And then also when I was a fourth year, I went to Chicago. Little bit scary at some point, but it's a beautiful city other than that. And then I was working as a web design, interaction designer. I also been to living in South Bay, the Silicon Valley a little bit. I didn't like that much, so I left in like 6 or 8 months to Portland, Oregon, nearby Nike's headquarters. Yeah, so a lot of advertising agency work as a creative technologist and design technologist. And then after that, Portland, I moved to San Francisco, and I was working in-house for Apple a little bit. Again, similar. The creative technologist is in between art director and also engineer. So we do basically in between work of like translating artistic sort of direction into engineering to talk to engineering people with kind of like mediating between those teams. And the last 1.5 years, I was in Pinterest, working on native application a little bit. Again, same as a creative technologist. And then after that, I was like kind of fed up with doing that technology work. So I went to study in architecture school in London. A little bit of work in Japan for the gap year. And then last year, I graduated from Architecture Association. And then right after this graduation, I found this application. So I submitted this application for the stage artist in residency. And then I was here in, I was there in Venice for 1 month from the beginning of September to the end of September. And then today I will talk mainly about this initial artist residency like from last year. But I want to touch a little bit on stuff we did for Casanova exhibition. This opened like last week. Busy but good exhibition. Okay, so then let's go back. Compositional interface, and then going through this with a lot of like scribbles. I found this single paradox. Its paradox lies in this like very question of digitalization of cultural heritage. This is exactly what archive does and all the other cultural institution does. But I found there's some paradox in this very definition of what they are. So cultural heritage and then digitalization, if we generalize it a little bit, it is basically the art and the technology and how to protect, how to preserve the art through digitalization, which is technology. But then when I was reading this Heidegger's pieces, writings, and one is the this original work of art, and then the other one is the question concerning technology. So this basically talks exactly what both of these terms, both of these entities, what is art, and then what is wrong, or what's up with the technology. I'm not like a super good philosophy reader, but I'm trying to understand. This is my interpretation, so I'm not sure this is correct. But what he was, he started with this like interesting question of what's the origin of the art. He started with like, is artwork comes before the artist, but the artist cannot exist without the artwork. So he's kind of started with this like a chicken and egg question of what is art. And he started to dive into what is a thing, what is a stone a thing, is a human a thing. But then towards the end, he argues there's two things. There's a world, and then there's the earth. And the art is kind of like comes in between. So world is like strife that tries to open everything into clarity and meaning. So that's a world like the world we live in, or the culture, or like a history. We try to make meaning out of interactions and things that we saw. But then on the other hand, the earth, like a physical thing that we are shunned upon, it's trying to hide, trying to like conceal itself. And then the art for him, for his argument, it kind of like stands in between, then trying to unify both. He used this exhibition. He used this example of the Bango's shoes, but then he was seeing this as like, you are not only looking at the shoes, but then you're also looking at this like the life of the world of the peasant labor, or the toil, and then the earth, and then all the reliability of the equipment, all these other things that you can get out of the art, which connects earth and then the world. So, and then going back to another writing, which is the question concerning the technology. He employed this word Gestell, I don't know, in German. Basically, the technology has this tendency to frame everything as a standing reserve, something to extract from or something to be used. So his example was this river, because river used to be, no, it still is, but then river is like part of landscape. And then it's like the poetry kind of depicts this a river as this part of this whole, how the scenery is created and such. But when we look at, so this is like a point cloud, and then the how point cloud data over Rhine River, and then also canal next to it. This is canal, and this is a river. But as you can see, along this canal, you see all this equipment, like these facilities and like factories and all these things. And then, as according to his argument, so by technology has this extraction mechanism. It tries to see all the nature, natural, like earth, into something to extract out of. So that was kind of interesting, because when we think about this art and then technology, because art in context of this Venice, for example, it's kind of urgency to preserve this artifact. We potentially get damaged in the case of like high flood and high tide. But then this urgency needs to be somewhat covered by these technological advancements. But technology has this like a danger risk of turning the thing, which is in our case, cultural heritage, into something like a standings or something to extract out of. So that's what I thought. There is this like strange paradox in the digitalization of cultural heritage. So this is kind of like a basic kind of starting point. I was like trying to figure out what I was doing, what I am trying to do. And then, so for this proposal, when after I graduated from school, I was like writing this thing, but I proposed this thing called delta. This is in a way really, really simple, but then I want to explain it a little bit in detail. So for example, so this is the scan of some object that I had at home. But I scanned it at 7 p.m. This is I0. And then I also scanned it like a minute after, which is I1, yeah? And this. But when I look at them precisely, one by one, like one pixel at a time, this is, by the way, scanned as a 16 bits, which is a little bit more higher resolution than 255, which is 8 bits. But when you look at this each pixel, you see there's a little bit of differences. Like I0 and I1 has like slightest difference in value. Here, see? So when we make this sort of difference, when we calculate the difference between these pixels, we get this another image. This is what I was proposing. This is delta image. So when you go up, go all the way scaled up, and then when I adjust a little bit level, you ended up getting this delta image, which comes out from scan at 7 p.m. and the scan at 7:01. Okay, so this is pretty much what I propose. But what do you mean by this? So it makes me kind of wonder why and how this image emerged. Why there's this difference, even though they are exactly the same object, like a dash captured only like a minute apart. So maybe potentially the light condition has changed, maybe. Or maybe I moved it a little bit, so registration potentially like moved. Or maybe because it's only 1 minute apart, sensor of this scanner potentially affected by this temperature. It's getting warmer or something, or colder, I don't know, something may be affected by it. Or maybe artifact, this concrete, this cut, like maybe changed somehow over 1 minute. But this is not, I don't know exactly what happened. But then if this is a light condition problem, maybe I should talk to someone who's a photographer. If this is registration or alignment problem, maybe I need to ask the engineer how to make sure, how can I make this like rig or jig to be perfect for every single scan? Or the sensor affected by temperature, it's maybe this physicist domain of work. And then if the thing that we are scanning is changing or decayed or something happened, maybe it could be the hand of an archivist. So this is something I from this delta image, like you ended up involved in a lot of professions and then potentially asking how this object is affected by this or the other circumstances, the environmental factors. So given this, in a way, like when we are looking at the one image, it is like quite certain we know what we are looking at. But then right after, when you start like looking at the two different images, then you are getting a little bit unsure what we are looking at, because if you don't know which one is true, and you have to constantly going back and forth between these two things. Yeah, this was my sort of proposal application for can we like scan the same things twice or 3 times, 4 times. Of course, logistically, it's a lot of work. And then I know I understand when I was in an archive, it's a lot of work to actually scan even one thing in a much volume. So this is not a fully realistic thing, but I think as a conceptual proposal, it's in a way kind of a little bit architectural scale that I wanted to see how other people can react by looking at this delta image. So this digitalization sort of involved this process of abstraction. As I said, like there's also in taking pictures, you have like 8-bit or like there's like 16 bits or like when someone take a photo in RAW format, you get a lot more granularity in how you can get white or how you can get black. But then analog values are like quantized, like a squished into discrete bucket of digital storage. Like what you're looking at here in a black is you put the 000 in RNG-MB bucket, but all the background you see like a white is technically putting like a 255, 255, 255 into RGD bucket. So all the thing that's been captured in the photo, again, needs to be put into this bucket of discrete numbers. So if art, this like stages this productive conflict between like this art, like tendency to conceal the truth and the worlds that we are trying to make sense, that trying to like reveal this what's hidden in the earth, this preserver in digital age, we need to be responsible for maintaining this strife conflict beyond rather than just simply taking a picture or capturing the data. So and then this active participation can be done by analyzing and revising this previous observation and then also the new observation, just constantly compare both. The again programmatic challenge lies like how to maintain this R3 ground of this artifacts once it's in the process of digitalization, because once you digitize, it kind of strips off all the context. But how can we keep this R3 connection while we constantly need to capture and then store all this information in digital format? Okay, so this delta image, when we diagram it, we will be probably doing this sort of process of like you have like capture one time, and then after a certain time you will capture another thing but the same object, and then you are able to make a delta, and then you're gonna make a delta and delta and delta, and each point of making delta images, people will be comparing how this thing changed, why this thing changed, and maybe we need to talk to other people. So I was expecting this to sort of kind of perpetuating program operation. But then this progressive sort of operation reminds me of this interesting again, this is paradox, but interesting anecdote called the Sorites paradox, which is basically asks like, where is the heap? Where does the heap become a heap? So is 1 grain of sand, is it a heap? Does it make a heap? Probably not. If it's like 2 bits of a grain, does it make a heap? Probably not yet. And 3 or 4 or 5, 6, and at some point it starts to make a heap. But then we cannot really say like when, how this, when, like you cannot really draw the line when the heap is emerged. So this is talking about the vagueness in language and also category in general. But we could also sort of extend this, like apply this same question maybe to pixels too. Like you could ask like, is 1 pixel is a image? I'm not quite sure. But if you kind of see more, maybe if it's like a 9 pixels, that it starts to make that into an image. Still not sure. And okay, maybe you need a little bit more. or maybe you need a little bit more, or maybe you need a little bit, tiny bit more. So is this time 10,000 pixel makes up the image? Maybe, but we cannot really tell when this image starts to emerge. This is kind of like a vagueness still. When we look at these pictures, one of them on the left is a false color composite, which is captured by a satellite, which is Sentinel-2. So it has all the bands looking at this infrared light, and then green and blue. You can make all these colors, this composite. This is taken from like way far away from the ground, but then constantly looking at the Earth's surface. The one in the middle is the simple my iPhone shot in Palazzo Cini. And then on the other hand, on the right, this is the receipt. I think this is receiver scan by a Factum of the same piece. This like from the scale of this Venice as island, and then from the perspective of like a tourist or resident who lives in the Venice, and then also the last one is just a microscopic view of like how to capture this complex art pieces that's been in hanged in Palazzo Cini. But then when we only looking at pixel, like a single pixel, you cannot get this information.
Basic storm.
Wow, basic.
Ah, ok,
Ah.
sì.
Okay. Good. Anyway, so what did I say? So the picture that we looked at, but when you only zoom into single pixel, it's almost impossible to tell where this picture, where this where this pixel is coming from. So I'm trying to call this. I'm not trying to call. I think I'm trying to define this as a epistemic equivalence of a pixel, because pixel does have no clue about its neighbors. It only knows about itself. It cannot know anything about surroundings, so this neighbor colors or whatsoever. It's been stripped out all the context. It's been stripped out all the weight or gravity. Everything's freed from it. So a pixel itself is quite independent entity. But because it's so independent from the place, it can also go beyond. Like it can be free from location sort of constraints. I was flipping through archives quarterly publication, and I stumbled upon this gentleman trying to get this surface of I think, I'm not sure this is a real thing, but maybe a UV printed material with this light torch. But then also we do have this scan data at hand, one with color. This is called albedo in rendering terminology. It's called albedo. And then we also have this 16 bits height data. And from color information, we can also sort of synthesize this roughness material texture. This is done. I used a substance painter, but then yeah, you can kind of like change this how it will look when it hits on a light. When I combine these to putting things all together in a framework called AR rearticulated Apple, but so this becomes some sort of like kind of like a virtual torch. And even for the audience who cannot physically visit Palazzo Cini, they can sort of experience as the almost activist view. But you can go closer, or like you can like change its orientation by yourself, and you can become sort of an active preserver of the of this Botticelli's piece. But there's one question I always had, is this like, is the program itself can become sort of notational system in which described by the author called Nelson Goodman. I'm going to talk a little bit about him. But for example, this is Mohorinagi's painting, picture called the telephone picture. So this looks like a normal, like a grid and quite simple drawings. But what he did was he had the graph paper at hand, and he called the factory worker that can paint this thing. And he also asked him to have the same grid paper, graph paper. And what he was doing was over the phone, he asked this worker, hey, can you draw this with this cutter? Can you draw this on this cutter? Can you draw this on this cutter? So he technically painted this painting without actually touching the canvas. And the person who was touching the canvas is the worker in, I think it's NML factory, but then the factory. So this is kind of separates the this author and then the actual art pieces. Similarly, this is the work by Solruet, wall drawing series. The work itself, before the work starts, he gave this certificate and diagram. And the certificates basically have an instruction to sort of how to draw this piece. So this one says on one wall, intersecting non-symmetrical hands or parallel lines 90 centimeter wide in 4 directional and colors. But in a way, like for this case, it was more like, I don't know where this is, or maybe someone's living room scale of the wall. But then if the wall gets, for example, way bigger in like a different a museum, or maybe wall has tiny bit of a dent or some like imperfection, it still become a work. So he wrote this piece called Paragraphs on Conceptual Art. And then, I skipped this. But he is saying here is that the idea is the work that makes the art. So his conception, his preoccupation was the idea, the concept itself, rather than the realized work, because it's when the work ends is when he kind of finished this conceptualization of the work to be achieved and then created. So Nelson Goodman had this 2 way of describing the artworks. One is allographic, and the other is the autographic. Autographic it's quite probably just as artwork as it is. It's you are a painter and you paint on the canvas. So when you finish your work, your painting is also done. So this is our autographic work. The other side of it is a allographic work. So allographic work is in a way like composer or maybe architects too. So when you finish planning of a work, and then even if the performance or actualization of the work, basically actualization of the work is separate from your completion of your conceptual work in a way. So the composer is the one. And then this is John Cage one, not the anyway. So yes, so the composition kind of like ends the work, but then performance is separate thing. For example, the John Cage's landscape sculpture was. Can you hear this? I hope. What he did was on this piece, he used like 12 radio stations, and then he made a composition out of it. So because of course you cannot really control radio stations, there's like all these different variations and permutation of exactly same composition, but then the performance of this actual result is completely different. So this is kind of like one of the characteristics of allographic work. So, so I think you noticed this, how flexible these scores and notes are. So this, because it's not like you define how exactly should be played. There's a little bit of like a vagueness, a little bit of up to interpretation part before this performance starts. So even though these softwares are often designed for utility, like for example, Excel is for spreadsheet, or like a Word to process like Word document. But maybe we could avoid this like predefined operation, and then we could explore a little bit like a different possibility of representing digital artifacts. I can try with this small. Can everyone's doing okay? I think. Hope so. It's tricky, not knowing any feedback, but anyway. So there's this simple web page, but this web page has this this thing called Canvas. I can send this URL to everyone, but let's send this to everyone then. But this what Canvas does is, for example, if you have any sort of like, for example, CSV file, which is file format for storing what is it, spreadsheets. Let's see, anything that I can CSV. For example, this file is like a list of numbers, like a list of numbers in the table. But in a way, for machine, it doesn't really matter what they are reading. So if I have this, not app, like it's Canvas, it's trying to display this as an image. So even if I drop this, a CSV file, it tries to read this as if it's an image. Because everything in the end for machine, all the files are stored in 0 and 1, 0 and 1, 0 and 1s. So if I drop all the other different CSVs, of course you get a different color, or different different colors, yes. If I like animate this thing, if I like put little bit of offsetting, I could also animate this thing as a part of way to, you cannot really tell you're looking at CSVs at this point. But this is another way where a computer can represent your data, not in a way that's been intended to. For example, if I have some other USDZ file, let's see. Is there any file that I can use? Any files that I can use? Sorry. Anyway, so this USDZ is usually file for storing 3D data, but then of course everything can become can be interpreted as a picture. So I just drop in this USDZ file, and then still you get this really strange representation of the file. What I wanted to do here is there's this a predefined sort of set of software is already available, but then you can always modify, and the pixels and also these bytes are quite malleable. You can access as much as you want, and then also you can represent as much as you want. Do I have time? Yeah, maybe. Should I do this? Anyway, let's go back to the presentation. Okay. I hope everyone follows. Anyway. But then computer a little bit different, because it can only process the thing that's being told to do. Because as you say, it's a program you grow as before and the gram right. So even like random numbers that generated by computer is not really particularly random. For example, this movement of tiny dots here, yeah, this looks a little bit random, but in the end, it's governed by this pseudo random number generator function. So it is, in a way, it's kind of still hard to say this program is as same as making a notational system for allographic work, because it's not really giving too much interpretation, and it's still not really purely random. But there's this proposition by Gustav Metzger. It's proposed in 1965. It's also proposed in AA. But he had this project in his mind. His project is called the 5 screens with a computer. So he wanted to make this like 5 massive screens, and then like each screen contains like maybe 1,000, maybe thousands of they have 10,000 elements. So each wall was made up of this tiny elements. And then what he was trying to do is that he wanted to disintegrate this wall over 10 years. And then this integration happens by basically sort of projecting, like ejecting these tiny pieces that compose the wall. So he wanted to do that, like ejecting it, kind of disintegrating it over 10 years. But this pattern, or like how to do this integration, he wanted to use a computer. But then rather than using computer's random generation, he wanted to use a climate and the atmospheric condition in order to make this random generation. In this way, in a way, like this atmospheric condition will make the computer is a little bit more non-deterministic, because the atmosphere or the climate, you cannot really say what's going to happen next. It's a really complex system. It's part of the Earth. What Heidegger says, there's a lot of mystery going on. We want to know about it, but still cannot. So there's a lot of chaotic behavior inside of it. And some of the project that I found on the archive was this water tide monitoring. So there's this monitors constantly looking at the water cycle, tidal cycle of around the San Giorgio. And I was thinking, maybe I could potentially use this. I mean, technically, during the residency time, I didn't have access to this API, so I didn't use that exactly the data. I simulated it with simple sine curves. But I was thinking, what if you have this scan of Palazzo Cini that hangs this Botticelli's work, but if you can like almost forcefully connect the data of what you can get out of this wave monitoring data to this like 3D sort of simulation of the Palazzo Cini. Of course, it doesn't really do much by itself, but in a way, like this painting that situated in the Venice, where this high tide and all this potential threat can be happening, I'm sort of trying to make these contexts like almost like literally clear by seemingly isolated data into single pieces. So that's one of the test studies that I was doing when I got here, when I got in residency for first couple of weeks. And so natural phenomenon itself is like, it's full of entropy. You cannot really sort of how can I say, you cannot really predict out of how the wave kind of behave in the next few seconds, or like how this temperature will changes over the next 10 seconds or next 10 days. It's really hard to predict. So this is sort of like entropy. I was interested in how uncertainty brings us about. the nature and the earth that we are looking at. This is the work, this land art pieces, the work by Robert Smithson. So this is Spiral Jetty, and this is a broken circle. This is a Mabiro lamp. So for Smithson, like he trying to understand and trying to employ the notion of entropy to his work. And then for him, this disintegration or decay of the form was a result, was something he was interested in trying to manifest in his work. And then this is often a result of this clash between this like uncoordinated orders. So he sometimes used the like a salt lake or this industrial pond. He tried to find a site that has like constant flux of materials and then human behavior. There's one entropy, but there's also another entropy there's this another entropy called information entropy. I'll sometimes also called Shannon's entropy. But this is a little bit different from this physics entropy. This is the in a way, like they're trying to like measure this amount of like surprise in the message being sent in between the between two people. For example, like when you talking to adult, I mean like a normal same age people, you can understand, you will probably guess most of, not probably guess, but you can kind of guess what they may be saying as a next word. So you kind of have this like a notion of you already constructing what this other people may say. But for example, so for this case, you say this is a lower entropy, lower information entropy in a conversation. But if you, for example, like talk to, not talk, like have a chat with a baby or child, you will probably cannot really predict what's the next word this baby or this child may say, because there's a lot more, they're still learning all the words, they're still learning sound. So in a way, there's a lot more supplies when you hear something back from the child. So this information entropy is trying to sort of measure this amount of surprise in the message. But this exact same information entropy is used in a machine learning algorithm in the form of a cross-entropy function. So cross-entropy function is this function to trying to measure the distance of like what machine sort of output as a guess, because when you're training machine kind of make a lot of guess. And then this guess is validated against the human labeled data. Human tell them this is the correct answer, so you have to like guess the word that are closer to this correct answer. This closer, closer to this correct answer, this distance, I mean, for machine, they can use this cross-entropy function to decide how far these losses are, these costs are. So these are called a cross-entropy function or sometimes called loss function. And then this machine learning algorithm basically built in order to minimize these loss, minimize this entropy. So same as in large language models, people have, not people, like the large language model say a word, they can construct a sentence, but this construction of a sentence is precisely from like lowering information entropy. So it makes this token next word in order to make human easy to read, easy to understand. Yeah, hope makes sense. And but of course, we have to be careful of using this large language model because it just simply just imitating us. But it can also be used to sort of bridge this language barriers. For example, for me, when I get in Cini and then trying to look at these beautiful books, I cannot read anything, which is a little bit sad. But also, if I could, because I know how to use a little bit computer, maybe I could ask computer to read a little bit for me. So that's also what I did in the first couple of weeks to try to understand what the archive has. So everything is basically a pixel, but this is a pixel. It looks beautiful for me, but then also it contains a lot of information. But then information does not really mean anything unless I could decode it. So this is sort of like a tool when I trying to extract the meaning out of the data that storage stores. Maybe I should try demo if that works. Maybe it doesn't work. So let's see. I'm gonna test if it's gonna work. Are people following okay? I hope. Confusing. Good. Okay. So this is, I'm doing a demo. It may not work, it may work. But what I'm doing with this Mac OS app is when I click the collection, I can see the all the books that's under this collection. This is using a thing called IIIF. I shouldn't explain too. I mean, I cannot explain too well, but in a way, this format that like catalogs or books or all the information can be can follow a particular order scheme, so that any other people can also follow those scheme to compare the same books in different editions or all sorts. Anyway, I use this IIIF as a base, and then getting where those images are. And for this case, let's see if we can do comment. I think this was Dante's thing, Commedia di Dante. Hope it's gonna work, but maybe not work. Let's see. Yes, it may work. And because it's IIIF, I can get all these pages out of the this JSON file. Maybe I can pick one of those pages here. And what's doing now is downloading the full picture from the server. And then it's really hard to see by itself, but I at least saw machine detected some text on top of this scan. For me, I mean, I can only read the alphabet. I cannot understand what they are. But I have also have this small button just asking what is written here, because I don't know. What this is doing is when I click this button, it takes all this text that I found on this scan, and then trying to send this to Google's Gemini, which is another large language model. But I also tell them, hey, this is actually the computer recognized text, so maybe it's not really potentially not fully certain, but can you try guess? So I'm asking them to guess what can be seen on this print. So yeah, it got say like this text is a commentary on opening lines of Dante's Divine Comedy, specifically for kind of. Hopefully it actually makes sense. I need to ask someone like Lenny or someone, but I mean, at least I can get to know this beautiful manuscript, something about Dante, and then it's a commentary about Dante, which is, for me, it's impossible to simply flipping through the JPEGs and then trying to translate one by one by typing a text and put that into translation app. So this is kind of like another tool that can bridges this kind of like a linguistic barrier. And then, yeah. So this is sort of like a scheme of how it happened. So it starts with a IIIF and then contains other pages. And then I download these images, which is basically a pixel representation. And then from that pixel representation, there's Apple's vision framework that I extracted text out of these pixels. And then from that pixel, I'm asking Gemini to guess what these texts potentially be. And then I could get this description of archived artifacts. So in a way, this compositional interface, what I'm trying to do is, as we saw in this, how the pixel only requires this other context, like a neighbors, to understand its own, to reveal its own meaning. Because now we have like thousands of millions of artifacts being scanned, can we use that scanned or like archived data as if they are the pixel that construct the image? So if the artifacts can accumulate it and then also associate it like 1 or 2 or 3 or like 10 or 1,000, 10,000, does it ever have any other extra meaning out of this association? So this is what the compositional interface that I was trying to do. This comes from my previous school project, which I technically find all these scrap materials and then trying to construct the form, assemblage out of it. So given like this, like I made this column, the simplest column, I welded together, but in those fragments, if I was like kind of like fantasizing, if these fragments are like a negative of like other people's models, the students' models, so they would be like a negative of the memory that they spend time with. And then if so, each piece could be attributed to this attributed with this student number, for example. But then when you look at this column at this point, you see this column is assemblage of a student's work. And then my project back in school was if I could do this in like urban scale. But then, so during the last year of school, I was like going through making a lot of different kinds of small sculptures and structures. Everything comes out from scrap materials. But what I was thinking, what I was constantly looking at here is that when you construct this form, before anything happens, you need to sort of assign extra data. Like, for example, like a measurement, like thickness or like actual material or like the curviness or like length or dimension. All these sort of metadata needs to be sort of prepared in order to make this assemblage, make this form. So that's also I'm trying to do in the this compositional interface in the digital domain as well. And this case of Fototeca, I think we had 10,000 photos, and I was there only 1 month, so I cannot really go through everything. I tried to start with like maybe making this movie. Maybe I can get some like a mirage or something. I couldn't. So it takes. I need to figure out how to understand this sea of images. So what I did was sort of trying to see this image as a different high-level layer. When you look at this image, you may be able to describe this as a standing statue, maybe. This image, maybe you can describe this as an aerial shot of Venice. That's how I describe it. But this image potentially be like interior of the building. So this image to text sort of association is quite common in the form of a model called the CLIP. It's contractive language image retraining. Anyway, so this model is has learned from all the internet images and also caption associated with that image. So what CLIP does is when you give a text, you can get the image. Now it's common, it's a really common thing, but then think about like 3 or 4 years ago, it's like you only have a Midjourney or something. It is quite interesting concept to think about that like you put the text and you get the image that describes that what you typed. But at the same time, because this is simple association between image and text, you can do opposite. So you give an image, you can get sort of text representation of that image. So it's actually not really a text, but it's called embeddings. Embeddings is a sequence of numbers, but this embedding somewhat represents the what image contains, what image shows. This is a clip. So this is what I started with. So given this tabular format, so this is similar to how you go to a Fototeca website and then you start at the search text field. But unless you know what's in the collection, you cannot really start typing what's there. I tried to type Venice. Of course, it's not. It was in somehow I was typing in English, so I couldn't get any results or anything. It's just you need to know what's there in order to search. That's a basic principle. So this one is trying to do the opposite. You're not really searching. You're just kind of observing the whole meta image of these images. The meta image, what I mean by that is that because I extracted embeddings, like text representation of the image, and then machines really, really good at calculating geometric distance between any dimension. So what I was doing was maybe like if it's like similar, it's called cosine similarity, but if you have similar text representation, similar embeddings, I was treating them as a sort of group. So this cluster kind of almost emerged as from this text embedding that I extracted from the clip. So yeah, you can kind of zoom in. Maybe this is this is maybe area photo of Venice, maybe. What else? This is captures staircase. This captures Summer Plaza Campo, and then these are the sort of maybe sculpture stock or kind of the decorative things. So then this is another way to navigate this collection of images. But yeah, this is sort of one way to do. But I also want this to be interactive so that people can explore by themselves. Let's test again if everything's gonna work. Okay. Okay. So this one is not public, but I running on my machine. But as you can see, you can kind of zoom in and then see individual picture, but also you will be able to see this clustering of those images. And then you are like freely sort of zoom into whichever the cluster that you find. And then still learning, but I don't know what these are, but seems like I don't know. Whoa. I don't know what they are, but some similar looking things here. Let's go to other place. I don't want. Okay, so for these, maybe these I don't know, maybe like a painting on the ceiling or maybe smaller scale. But yeah, I've never actually seen this cluster, so no. So it really is good to learn some. You can get to see different aspect of the collection. So because it's a little bit like placed randomly, it's not really precise. But also that's sort of my point of how to embrace this imprecision, but make that into sort of like point of exploration. Yeah. Okay, I hope everyone's here. Okay, next. So there's also another set of collection by the journalist Tirelli. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right. But what I started with, there's also, again, 10,000 photos or something. What I started with is trying to find face. It could be very simple, but you can do it by hand. But when it comes to trying to do this annotation one by one by hand, it is daunting work. But for this case, luckily, machine already learned how to look at the faces in the picture. So I'm using this machine learning model. I think I used the YOLO model, or maybe I used the vision model from native app. But this by itself, it's not that interesting. But when we think about it, the face is in a way like everyone has universally almost same size of a face. So what I did here was trying to make a montage of this journalist, but because he is traveling, and then he also have to identify himself with getting visa, and then but also he takes a little picture of local people, and sometimes he takes picture of statues. But then he traveled around Southeast Asia and met a lot of people, and then traveled around with how people live, and then also himself time to time. So this comes from simple like a facial detection data that I applied on top of the pixels. This is, this is also like quickly done as a prototype, but this prototype can be done in a relatively short time. Once you know where the faces are, all I did to give a sort of form is to give them sort of align the face. That's about it. But it still become another way to go through. I mean, it's a completely different way to go through the text field and try to find out about where he went or what he did. That described by someone who archived it. This is another way to see his life and his journalism as a time-based piece. Yeah. So yes, we did talk about this whole paradox, and then this arts, and then this paradox of how the art requires technology to protect itself, but then technology is trying to make this into sort of extraction of resources. And then my proposal there was to try not to do it, and then how to use the randomness, so how to kind of embrace this entropy was something I'd be interested in. Going back to this diagram, you constantly take same images multiple times, every certain intervals, and then you create this delta images. This diagram also reminds me of my visit to Ise Shrine in Japan. It's middle of nowhere. It's really not that far from a cityscape. But this shrine has this gate entrance, and also right next to it, it has this empty plot. So these two sit right next to each other, one on the other. Look from the plan, you see one is empty, completely empty, and then the other is occupied. This is the image from 2006. See, there's one occupied, one empty. So this is from the 2018. So as you can see, these two plots are used like one. I mean, sometimes it's used and sometimes it's not used. This is kind of special, like a unique case in this things called Shikinen Sengu. It's a rebuilding and also relocation of the same thing, same building every 20 years. They do this like every 20 years for many years, like putting having one shrine after 20 years and then rebuild another one next to it. And then the other side, it's just gone, vanished. I mean, people says this is a way of trying to pass down this training because this is 20 years generationally, the kid can become an adult and they start to learn something as a crafts. And so some people say that 20 years set to do this generational training and such. But this is interesting because it has been done for many, many years, since 690, so over like 1,000 years, with like 100 years of break. But they've been doing it like every 20 years. And then not only this building, they have like dozens of buildings. They also recreate tiny item inside these buildings, like thousands of those tiny items they recreate every 20 years for many, many years. This is strange, sort of like a ritual, but from architectural standpoint, this architect's called Hisozaki, Arata Isozaki. He's an architect, and he's also a well-known writer in architectural critics. But he mentions this perpetuation happens because there's a repetition. So this revisions happens and then revised in order to recapture this like a pure form, whatever the pure form is. And then this lurking behind is a system. This is called the system is the original command code of the genome, like to recover the beginning. But the beginning harbors a fiction. So he argues there's no beginning in this thing, but then because you're constantly doing this, like exactly same thing over and over 20 years again, they are revisiting the beginning somehow. So they're constantly creating, constantly like finding a beginning because they have to rebuild every single 20 years. He also mentions this concealment as the origin. So let's do it right down. So buildings itself are constructed precisely in order to conceal the origin. And then, so because they don't want to show this beginning, or maybe there is no beginning, but because this, it's really confusing way to say, but so this building is where God lives. And then the architecture that holds God needs to obscure its God. I mean, in Japan, this case, it's more like a nature. So they wanted to sort of hide, obscure the existence of nature as an object. And then I think also one of the items that's being stored in this tiny building is said to be like a mirror. So you thought there's a God inside this building, but what you see in the end is a mirror. So it's yourself and self. This concealment as an origin argument by the Arata Isozaki is quite interesting. That comes back to our previous notion of Heidegger's notion of how the earth is constantly trying to conceal. So maybe this repetitive kind of like obsessive capture, obsessive revisiting, obsessive reconstruction can become sort of like an imitation of the nature, imitation of the earth. So that's what I thought was interesting anyway. But then also when we trying to like understand what we are looking at, this information, or in a way memory, even though we do this Zoom call in a digital format, but then it needs to have some sort of spatial context to it. In the book of the Art of Memory, they're talking about how the Greek philosopher was constantly have this technique of memorizing a lot of long argument about these court cases. What they did was they trying to like embed the information, embed the memory into like a spatial context, such as chair. Hey, this chair, as someone was sitting there for some reason, because it's not, you cannot memorize everything in your head. But if you transfer this the information in a spatial context, you can sort of expand your imagination and memory space in infinite ways almost. In a different literature, it's Douglas Hofstadter. It's more like computer science or information theory, there's also this interesting chapter called the location of meaning. This is again like a spatialization where we constantly need to revisit like where this meaning resides. Where are we? What are we looking? How do we see things? He had this interesting example of if you have this vinyl for playing music, and then if you throw this vinyl into the space, and then UFO and alien found this thing. For us, for someone who can play music, I can listen to music, it has a lot of musical information and meaning in it. But for aliens, it's just a piece of garbage. It has no information whatsoever for them to decode. So this was something interesting about how we're constantly thinking about where this meaning kind of emerges. It's not only a thing that contains a meaning, it's just like almost in between association of the thing. In association, for our case, I'm talking about this culture heritage, but in the digitized format. But I'm trying to figure out the way to how to spatialize put into physical space. Another example that I kind of inspired to was the Warburg's case of Atlas, where it's not really like tabular format of how to look at things categorically. It is about the juxtaposition and association that are seemingly unrelated, but then still nonetheless, if you force the connection by proximity, by space, you get to understand the history of art in differently, or like in a different trajectory it might have. I was thinking something along the way of maybe we could do something along the what can we do in a digital form of this how Warburg was trying to accomplish in his Atlas. Again, this started with this my proposition where one image is certain and two images make both uncertain. So then this compositional interface is trying to help us to notice this sort of constellation. So like the Asian people are looking at the stars that are coming from different speed, not different speed, different distance and different time, but then they see that as a sort of myth, sort of story to tell. But then in the modern era, people look at the stars, but then probably not much. People look at more pixels than the stars now. But then when we are looking at this much of pixels, maybe this sort of compositional interface needs to be established in order to make these digital data to be more like seen as a constellation to generate more meaning or generate different sort of way to look at this cultural heritage. So embracing this uncertainty and vagueness in the world of minimizing entropy is something I've been looking to do. For this compositional interface part, I'm kind of done with my presentation. I could also get the question now or some discussion whatsoever. And then also I could show something about Casanova exhibition or the failure or test or the process work, if that makes sense.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you, Hiro, for your interesting lecture. I would like to know if anyone has any kind of question. I see there is one in the chat. Do you want to read it, Hiro?
So the joint presentation, great, thank you. So it would be great if I could start to explore collaborating with some digital art projects developed organically from the Cini through the joint means. Okay.
Well,
wait, is there?
I don't know if there, maybe there are people just writing down their questions right now. So I don't know if you want to talk a bit more about anything, like maybe about something that you...
With the Casanova exhibition. But okay, so there's a question too. How does AI threaten or help such research? Oh, interesting. Maybe there's a question asking like I don't know exactly which research is Paolo talking about, but maybe there's maybe negative part of, or like a threat of AI in age of this digital archiving. I think that's the question. Um, yes, good. I think there's a threat, of course. I think one of the thing I was constantly thinking about when I was making this like translation sort of app, it is in a way a little bit dangerous because if you don't have anyone who tells you otherwise, like if you believe everything what machine says is true, it become a little bit confusing because because I know I code it like, hey, this is I'm also asking them to guess, so I kind of know like uncertainty or like this probably not precise answers that large language model respond back to me. But if no one, if people doesn't know, and if people kind of believes what a large language model is saying is true, it becomes a little bit of a threat or dangerous zone. Because like in the end, machines only imitating what people have said on the internet. And internet is full of random stuff too. So this is only a way to kind of like kind of kickstart what I am looking at. But I need someone, of course, to really understand what's being written here is a valid point or like something I can trust or I can start investigating into. So I think that's one sort of like, it's not threat per se, but something I think in general people have to keep in mind of when we are talking with machine, they are not really telling the truth. They may be, but then that's the entity who decides what is true or what is not is really like human thing. It's not like a machine decides this is, oh, this is definitely true or this is not true. I think there's someone outside the system of the machine have to constantly talk and have a conversation with others to figure out the ethics and then truth. So I think that's one sort of threat that I can think of, like a blind sort of believing that the machine is saying right. Other things also for this one, what I didn't do was I didn't send the image to the Google. Because of course it's Google can do a lot of image processing, and maybe they should be able to help me without doing this OCR. But because it's not like our own model, we don't even know for sure if these data that we send to us used for extra training or used for some other derivative work of their business model. So that's another thing that we need to be careful what sort of data that we are feeding into in a machine that we don't have control of. All these local machine learning models are getting more and more powerful, but still like compared to this like a huge server, huge like a data center and server that they have, it's quite minuscule, even though it's getting bigger and better and better. But so what I did here was only sending a text so that we don't have to send this culturally digitized, carefully digitized material to the Google. So I'm trying to separate that too. So yeah, that's a threat, maybe. Does it make sense? I think so.
Yes,
Hope
it
so.
does.
But, great. So I can show a little bit of what we did in Casanova's exhibition. I tried to play, but I didn't play last time, so sorry. This one I didn't show, and also it was not really used in exhibition per se. But so we have this many depiction of constant people of Constantinople. And then this, I think this is almost same age as where the Casanova was alive. So we were trying to use this material somehow. But then what we found is they stand, the posture is quite nice. And then it's something nice about how they pose themselves. So I go through with this another machine learning model called the YOLO, and then trying to detect these poses of these Constantinople people. And then also another model, it's called Moon Dream. Yeah, I think it's a Moon Dream. We can also ask machine to, hey, can you find a hand out of the pictures? And then that can kind of give us this like all the collection of hands in the picture. This we didn't use in video, but it could be also interesting if we could use this for something else. For example, like when you are maybe historian and art historian, some people may be interested only looking at the hand, because hand sometimes describe, have this all the details and like techniques used to depict those hand. So maybe this sort of like simple way to only detecting hands, only detecting faces, only detecting maybe a hat can potentially help researchers and archivists too, in order to kind of like summarize this information into by asking machine to do a little bit of like tiring work of trying to find hands in a picture from thousands of images. But that's something we didn't use, but we tried to do. Other thing that we did was, let's see, this is also another app. Let's show all the apps. Sorry, it's a little bit unorganized, but bear with me a little bit. So Casanova had, of course, he is famous for traveling around a lot of places, and then we have this list of text that's we started with this text data, and then this is where the Casanova was traveling from and to and wherever. So we have this list of places that Casanova went. But this text information itself cannot really say much. I mean, we know exactly where Venice is, where the Padua is. But if we have many of those cities, it's getting a little bit cumbersome to plot them everything into on the map. So what we did was from this text, I asked machine, not machine again. I asked Google to, hey, can we do this reverse geocoding? So geocoding is the technique that, given a text of cities or like councils, anyway, like a place, you can get the exact, actually not exact, but you can get suggestion of where this could be in latitude and longitude. So from this information, I can plot maybe I cannot plot. Sorry, my internet may not work. Come on, internet. Anyway, so yes, so it's same data in a way. It's same data from Venezia, Padua, everything. You know everything where that is. But if you really trying to go one by hand, it's a lot of work. And now it's good that we have only maybe less than 100 that probably people can do it, spending 2 or 3 hours. But you don't want to do that when it comes to 3,000 or 4,000 entries we need to do. But for this case, what we did was this thing called the geocoding. Given this text, we get sort of text representation and the geocoded representation. So again, probably not good representation, but so these, for example, now if I ask for Venezia, I can get geometry and like a geocoordinate of this is in latitude, longitude, so like this. So which allows us to do this sort of procedural way to track where he was visiting while he's traveling across the Europe. Given this, because we had this idea that we want to make a scarabocchio, the scribbles, because he's kind of wandering around. He had probably no like a direct plan to go somewhere. So that's sort of the app. I was trying to make this scarabocchio as a sort of interactive animation system. So this, let's just some city color, trail color to be white. So I also try to make an application or tools in a way, because when you change the way you make something, you automatically change the output. So for example, this is when he goes to Kofu. Let's zoom in a little bit. Zoom in. And then, so now he's in Venezia. If he's like went to Constantinople, maybe do animation like this. And then, yeah, so I was trying to make his journey a little bit more fun. Of course, geometrically, that's what he did. That's where he went. It's a lot of kilometers, actually. But I was thinking maybe he was like wandering around like this. Therefore, his travel must be a lot of unexpectedness, a lot of like event and happenings. And then these like kind of like an interesting way to describe his journey could be one way to tell narrative using these archival materials. I'm not sure if we ended up using this animation in final video, but I enjoyed making this kind of like an interesting representation of people's journey out of started with this simple text and ended up becoming this kind of animation system. Yeah. Other things I was also doing is, sorry, it's more like half show and tell. I was not fully, okay, there's some questions. Have investigators, archivists being able to use these tools for specific situation, teaching, cataloging? So this is really like simple tools. I made this during this residence. So I think you're talking about all these things, or what is it? The translation app. This is not really public because it's only made me in. I spent like one month in Giorgio Cini and then trying to figure out how to put them together. So it's not really production ready per se. But what I was trying to do here was to this possibility of like things that are in a way, a little bit underutilized. And then technically speaking, because if you can find all the faces from this Fototeca, only that's become a little bit like an interesting collection. Of course, not many people want to know the faces of the people back in Venice 50 or 60 years ago, but still, if someone was looking for particular individuals, or maybe someone, I don't know, historians wanting to see how people are wearing, if you can have this tick box, even like, hey, just find me all the picture with the face, or if you could do that, I think it will definitely accelerate the research effort. Those things, I think this, in a way, I'm trying to do with the compositional interface is that adding a little bit extra information, higher level information, can potentially help this access and the utility of this data data repository now sit as almost cold fridge, but there needs to be warmed up. And then warming up is you can use machine learning, but also with this little bit of careful approach to how to use those LLMs or vision model, because it's not precise, it's not truth. Someone has to really consider what is true and what is not. Yes. Yes, that's good. Dolores. Yeah, good. Should I get Laura's Nika's question? So in what ways does the availability of material within specific archive or collection shapes your methodology or technical approach you adopt for its dissemination? What evaluated criteria, iterative process inform you to decision in such contexts? Like extracting meaning. For example, the series of photographs you presented appear to follow a consistent format featuring similar background. Yes, uniform placement of text and background imagery. The visual regularity suggests underlying pattern. What could potentially be analyzed or replicated using machine learning approach? So I think the question is so like, for example, if these cases all the images are sort of in a way formatted. Like everything has the same format, and then maybe that's somewhat easier to process. I think that's maybe your question. I think yes. I mean, usually when you have a data that has similar, like a certain consistency, it helps to like emerge these patterns a little bit more clearly. But also in this case, I didn't use any sort of text information. For example, each Fototeca library has its like when this is taken or where this is taken, or all these informations are there. For this particular one, I didn't use any of those information, just to really wanted to test if this clip embedding clustering works or not. So I'm not sure how it will behave when we use different archive set. Maybe I could show some other example that I didn't do in Cini though. But as my other project, collaboration project. Where did I put it? Sorry. Sorry, it's a little bit messy, but so this is, I was kind of like helping with other collection. I was testing with other collection. It's so again, similar to how I was doing with this clip embeddings. This is, I extracted the embedding information, like a text representation of the pixel from this collection, KMSKA. And then I used my phone as a almost like a search field. Usually you have to, again, as I said, you need to know the word to search something usually, but what if you could use your vision to search something like somewhat semantically similar out of the collection? So this, again, maybe as you can see, it's the format wise, it's completely off. It's not really same rectangle, same format, but it ended up like surfaces something that are somewhat relevant to what you see in the picture. So that's kind of like potentially a way to use this embeddings in other ways. But yeah, this is a kind of another example of using different archive, but trying to test a similar technique to it. Yeah, I'm not sure that clears your question, but good. And then in terms of like a meaning thing, like extracting meaning, but that I'm also interested in is the for this demo, what I was doing is, given this scientific paper, I cannot fully understand what these scientific papers are, but I was asking machine to, hey, can you pick up like some points topic that are important for me to know, or something like that. And then using these topics, and then, for example, if the paper was talking about deforestation in Netherlands, for example, this app, this whatever the prototype that I made, sometimes reveals this sort of forest painting that are in the fall season, something like that. So see, this was it's okay. Oh no, sorry. Let's see. So this doesn't really make much sense, but then one of the papers says something about Earth's temperature started to rise, and after the period of cooler temperature, and then this is what I get out of the collection. So even though these like people who writes this paper, or like a domain in which this paper is submitted, and then also in the domain where these paintings are being exhibited or being appreciated, those people are probably far apart physically. But by using these little bit of like forcefully connecting the forcefully making association with these different parts of the knowledge, I am thinking like this is a little bit like, that's why I kept saying this maybe architecture, because it requires a spatial condition to make this thing happen, in let them talk to each other, or like make them like a place to search in different domain, but a different velocity, a different direction, but then same attitude. So this is something maybe you're asking about, this extracting meaning part, that I'm also interested in, how we could use a little bit of extra data, and then by using this higher level data, can we make another constellation out of the if I mean, yeah, yes, good. Also, so what I did for the point crowd data, maybe. So for this exhibition, we had this LiDAR point cloud data. LiDAR point cloud data is point cloud data is basically a bunch of points, but you can take that as with a LiDAR scanner. And then there's a lot of points that we need to visualize, and then trying to figure out how to do them. But also because Casanova is not, this is not really for architectural, like a preservation project. So there's a little bit of play we can apply to it. So in San Marco render, we kind of like test it with different sort of effect to show San Marco like a little bit dreamy way. So this is more like, it's not really saying, you cannot really tell this is San Marco, but then as you kind of enter into the center, this like particle starts to kind of settle down into architectural, like a physical scan of the San Marco, and then the Palazzo San Palazzo. So these things are actually quite big file. This file is like, how big they are, like almost like 10,000 pixels by like 3,000 pixels. So for this one too, I ended up making my own point cloud sort of application. Then we have a little more control over how to animate this noisy and then noisy point movement. So this is spanning across like maybe 9 meters by 3 meters on the wall. So it looks completely different from what you see on the Zoom, and everything is anti-alias and everything not really cool. But if you have time and if you are in Venice, you can see this like projected in a big wall in Casanova exhibition. Yes. Is there anything? There's a lot of stuff we also did. For example, this is Casanova, but then because he had this like different sort of faces and roles, this artist, and then like Sara and then Ale, we talked about maybe we can kind of like do this little bit of morphing faces. I ended up doing this is like kind of interactive sort of fun way to deform his faces. It's not really nice to do to him, but in a way he constantly changes his role. Like he constantly talking to different kinds of people as different role. I mean, different identity. So these things can become sort of the tool. I'm not sure we used it in the end. I don't think we did, but it's still, we are using this cultural heritage, like just a digitized version of it, because precisely because it's digitized, we can do this. We can modify them without fear of damaging anything, physically. Then this could be end up using for another expression for the Casanova's case, we are able to use these modification in a video and then the film format. So yeah, so there's a lot of properties that we can change, and it's a test, a lot of tests that we did. This is one of those tests. How about time? Everything's good?
Yeah, we still have like around 10 minutes if you want to
Okay.
say something
Good.
else.
Yeah, if anyone has another questions or anything, please let me know. There's also, I'm gonna send the link, but the things that I talked is everything is in the link that not everything, sorry, it's not everything, but most of the thing that I talked or like I put in the slides are all here. Most of them are here. So yeah, if you follow, if you could not follow certain thing, please look at this link that I just sent. But what else should I show? Sorry, I'm not fully organized for show things, but maybe show a little bit more of this. There is a lot of tests before getting to that level of we toned down a lot of stuff. Of course, we started with crazy, like a lot of strange tests. This one was before I was making my own point cloud renderer. I was using a Blender for testing and looking at the point cloud. So I was writing this thing called a GLSL, which is a graphical language to modify points or colors or all the other things in something to do with graphic. So we started with all the different kinds of prototypes and then see how we could use this San Marcos point clouds almost as like a sand. Yeah, a lot of tests and failures and things we didn't use in the end. But I think it's good that we do this test, and then whenever we want to come back, we can come back. But we understand this is too much, or this doesn't really help. So we do a lot of tests. Sara and Alessandro is just keep helping me in remote and also when I was in there. So it's a quite collaborative effort in between three of us. But yeah, it's a lot of testing and testing around and how the point can become non-point, and yeah, it's an interesting visual development, I should say. Yeah, this is a whole first initial test. That's how we started, and they ended up doing other apps. Yeah, a lot of tests. Sorry. I'm showing all the failures, but I think it's also kind of nice for me to see because some of them are still nice.
Of course, it's like the different steps of a process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's really important to know that also this is a part of the process as well, like failing and then just moving on and try different views, and also, yeah, just discussing with Sara and Alessandro, I think was really helpful for you. And
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting. I never used some of the technique or some deep learning. This is thing called Gaussian Splatting, but still, it's nice to try different thing because I can get to know the technology and also limits of technology as well. So that's what I find it interesting to work in this artistic exhibition, and also helps me to understand this conceptual thing that I was talking about earlier.
well, I can say that I mean, if anyone is interested in seeing a part of the final process, the video of the life of Casanova is uploaded on YouTube.
Oh, really? YouTube.
Cini, yes. And also, if anyone would like to visit our exhibition, Casanova in Europe, on the island of San Giorgio Maggiore, can enjoy also the other video and that you made, the one on the Tetto dei Piombi of Palazzo Ducale that you showed, and also another one in another little room.
True. Yeah, I forgot to show. But sorry. Yes, there's also another like esoterismo, right? The spectre. There's a lot of exploration there too. Ale helped us in terms of helped everyone in a way to do this projection mapping in this really strange setup in the last minute, but he did it crazy job of like mapping precisely, and then making this room like brighten up with this point cloud material, which is also this is different from San Marco. A little bit more creepier because that's the theme of it, but it's kind of interesting exhibition. You go with the lantern, and you sometimes darker, and you sometimes it's greeted by this faces on the table. Yeah, I think it's interesting walk in the Cini exhibition. But good.
Thank you, Hiro.
Right.
It's always a pleasure to listen to you. You're always like so fast, and everything seems very easy when you're talking about it, but we know it's not. And so thanks for sharing with us your work and your artistic research. And yeah, I think this is it.
Thank you.
And the recording of this lesson will be available on YouTube. And yeah, I would like to thank everyone who joined us today, and you, of course. Thank you. Grazie mille, Hiro.
Grazie mille.
Always.
Thank you so much.
See you soon.